What if I told you that every ancient Greek and Roman statue you've ever seen in a museum is completely wrong? That the pristine white marble masterpieces we admire today were actually painted in vivid blues, reds, golds, and flesh tones? The truth about ancient statues will change everything you thought you knew about classical art. Introduction. For centuries, we've imagined the ancient world as a place of pure white marble, elegant, refined, and monochromatic. But this image is one of history's greatest misconceptions. The reality? Ancient Greek and Roman statues were bursting with color, as vibrant and lifelike as a modern movie set. Today, we're diving deep into this fascinating discovery that's revolutionizing how we understand the ancient world. The misconception. Walk into any major museum today, the British Museum, the Louvre, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and you'll see rows of gleaming white marble statues. These sculptures have defined our understanding of classical beauty for over 500 years. Renaissance artists like Michelangelo modeled their work on these pure white forms. Neoclassical architects designed entire buildings around this aesthetic of marble perfection. But here's the shocking truth. These statues weren't supposed to be white at all. What we're seeing isn't the original artistic vision. It's the result of thousands of years of weathering, decay, and deliberate removal of paint. The ancient Greeks and Romans would be absolutely bewildered by our museums full of colorless stone figures. The discovery. The breakthrough came in the 1980s when German archaeologist Vinzenz Brinkmann began using advanced imaging techniques to examine ancient sculptures. Using ultraviolet light, infrared photography, and high-powered microscopes, he discovered something extraordinary. Microscopic traces of paint still clinging to marble surfaces. These weren't random stains or accidental markings. These were deliberate, sophisticated painting techniques called polychromy, literally meaning many colors. The evidence was hiding in plain sight, invisible to the naked eye but clearly present under scientific analysis. Brinkmann's team found traces of Egyptian blue, cinnabar red, gold leaf, and dozens of other pigments. They discovered intricate patterns, detailed facial features, and elaborate clothing designs that had been completely invisible for millennia. It was like finding a hidden world of color trapped beneath layers of time. How they painted statues. The process of creating these colorful masterpieces was incredibly sophisticated. Ancient artists didn't just slap paint onto marble. They used a complex system of preparation and application that would make modern artists jealous. First, they would apply a thin layer of wax or resin to seal the marble surface. This created a smooth base that would hold paint effectively. Then came the pigments, expensive materials imported from across the known world. Egyptian blue came from copper and calcium, cinnabar red from mercury ore, and gold leaf was applied with careful precision. The artists used what's called the encaustic technique, mixing pigments with heated wax to create colors that would last centuries. They painted everything. Skin tones that look startlingly realistic, intricate patterns on clothing, detailed armor decorations, and even the irises of eyes. Hair was painted in natural colors: blonde, brown, black, even red. Lips were given a subtle pink or red tint. Clothing featured elaborate patterns, geometric designs, and sometimes even narrative scenes painted directly onto the marble fabric. The famous Venus de Milo, she originally had golden hair, rosy cheeks, and a colorful dress. The Parthenon sculptures, they blazed with blues, reds, and golds that could be seen from miles away. These weren't subtle accents. They were bold, dramatic statements designed to capture attention and convey power. Why the paint disappeared? So why don't we see these colors today? The answer involves centuries of weathering, cultural attitudes, and sometimes deliberate destruction. Natural weathering played the biggest role. Rain, wind, temperature changes, and chemical reactions slowly stripped away the organic pigments. The wax-based paints that were so carefully applied began to fade and flake off within decades of exposure to the elements. But nature wasn't the only culprit. During the Renaissance, many sculptures were actually cleaned and scrubbed to remove any remaining traces of paint. Renaissance artists and collectors believed that pure white marble represented the height of classical sophistication. They saw the colorful remains as crude additions that detracted from the pure beauty of the stone. This wasn't accidental ignorance. It was a deliberate aesthetic choice. The Renaissance ideal of classical beauty was based on the assumption that white marble was the original intention. When they found painted sculptures, they often removed the color to match their preconceived notions of what ancient art should look like. Even into the 19th and early 20th centuries, museum curators and archaeologists continued this practice. They would use harsh chemicals and abrasive cleaning methods to achieve that perfect white finish that visitors expected to see. Recreating the colors today, researchers like Brinkmann are working to recreate these lost masterpieces in their original glory. Using advanced computer modeling, chemical analysis, and traditional painting techniques, they're bringing ancient sculptures back to life. The process is painstakingly detailed. First, researchers use spectroscopy to identify the exact chemical composition of paint traces. Then they create historically accurate pigments using the same materials and methods ancient artists would have used. Finally, they apply these colors to precise plaster replicas of the original sculptures. The results are absolutely stunning and sometimes shocking to modern eyes. The archer from the Temple of Aphaea looks like a living warrior, complete with intricate armor patterns and lifelike skin tones. The Augustus of Prima Porta statue reveals elaborate decorative scenes on his breastplate that tell complex political stories. These reconstructions have been displayed in museums around the world, often right next to their white marble counterparts. The contrast is dramatic and eye-opening. Visitors are frequently surprised by how much more dynamic and engaging the colored versions appear. Cultural impact. This discovery has massive implications for how we understand ancient culture and art. The Greeks and Romans weren't the austere, minimalist societies we often imagine. They lived in a world of bold colors, dramatic visual statements, and artistic techniques that rivaled anything we see today. Think about what this means for our understanding of ancient architecture. The Parthenon wasn't a pristine white temple. It was a blazing beacon of color visible across Athens. Ancient cities weren't monochrome stone environments, but vibrant, colorful places that would make modern Las Vegas look subdued. This also changes how we think about the relationship between art and society. These painted sculptures weren't just decorative objects. They were sophisticated communication tools that conveyed complex messages about power, religion, and cultural values. Conclusion: the next time you see an ancient statue in a museum, remember that you're only seeing half the story. Those white marble figures were once living, breathing works of art that captured the imagination and commanded the attention of everyone who saw them. This discovery reminds us that history is full of surprises, and our understanding of the past is constantly evolving. The ancient world was far more vibrant, sophisticated, and visually stunning than we ever imagined. And thanks to modern technology and dedicated researchers, we're finally able to see it as it truly was, in living color. What other assumptions about the ancient world might be completely wrong? The story of painted statues teaches us to question everything we think we know about history. After all, the truth is often far more colorful than we expect.